guys, I want to have a look at how we can recreate this ramekin shape that we've been using in the creation of our edge light design. So remember, this is a hollow shape here with ridges going around the edge here. I'm going to concentrate on how we can recreate the patterning going around the edge of this, as this is quite a valuable tool to actually be able to work with. So to start with, we'll have a new part studio to work on. Okay. We know the diameter of our ramekin is 100 millimeters, so I'm going to start on the top work plane and put a new sketch on the top work plane and click on top, or if you press N, that will normalize the sketch so that you're looking straight at it. Okay, new keyboard shortcut there. I'm going to start with my circular tool from the center and drag out a circle that has a diameter of 100 millimeters. Okay, zoom that out. This is going to be extruded, so I'm going to take my extrusion tool and we're going to extrude this to 40 millimeters. Okay, but I'm also going to put a draft on this, so we're going to click on the draft tool. If we look from the side here, we can see that it has moved outwards on the draft by 3 degrees. Okay, you can see that difference here. So we want it to go the opposite direction, so click on the arrow to make it go opposite, and we want it to be 5 degrees. 5 degrees coming in. Okay, press enter. There we have a draft now. Click on the green tick. Okay, so we now have our new shape. And there's a 5-degree draft coming in on it, which helps it to actually extract from the vacuum former. Okay, next click on the front tool, front work plane, and click on new sketch on the front work plane. Okay, so this is our new sketch here. I'm going to use my construction line tool, so line and construction line together. I'm going to start from the origin, and I'm going to draw a line out that's going to be exactly 50 millimeters from the origin. So drag it out to roughly 50, click on that, type in 50, so that's replicating the radius of our circle, 50 degrees. Okay, press escape to finish off the line. We can take this and drag this out of the way there so we know we're on 50 degrees. The reason why we want that is because we've got to plot this point here, so then we can actually create 2 new construction lines, one that's going to be vertical, another one that's going to be at 5 degrees this way. So construction line, 2 together, that's the only time we use 2 tools together. Start from this point here, lay down a vertical line. You can tell it's vertical when it turns orange and the line appears next to it. That's fine. Press escape. Repeat those 2 from this point. And this time try to follow the edge of the ramekin. Don't worry too much if it's not exactly, because we're going to dimension this anyway. So that's fine. Press escape, finish it off. So we now have 2 lines drawn. Okay, so I'm going to use this one as a base to get this to be 5 degrees from that. So I'm going to take my dimension tool, click on the first line, and then on the second line. And that now gives me an angle. If I move this way, that's the outer angle, and that's the inner angle now. Right. So at the minute it's 5.3099, etc. We don't need that, we only need it to be 5. So press 5, press enter, and that's now exactly 5 degrees, and that should be replicating the draft that we had here. Okay. Now the reason why we want these 2 construction lines is because we're going to have to draw on a curved surface, and you can't lay down a sketch on a curved surface. So we need to put a plane that's going to be against this edge. Okay. We could use the right plane, but then the angle is going to be wrong for it. So we need to use this new angle that we've created here. So we're going to take our plane tool there. The entity that we're going to be following is going to be one of these 2 lines. If I click on this line there and select a line angle, that'll put a plane for us. But if you look, the plane is exactly vertical because it's following that line. We want it to follow the new line. Ignore this message here. It's only if you wanted to actually change the angle of the line angle. So I'm going to take this edge of the sketch out, and this time I'm going to pick a 5-degree line instead. And now we have a new plane that's appeared at 5 degrees to the vertical, like so, and it follows the edge of our ramekin dish there. So we have effectively a flat surface to draw onto. Okay, green tick. So using our new plane, select that, select sketch, press N to normalize so you're looking straight at it. Okay, so we're looking straight at plane 1 and the sketch is laid onto that. I'm going to take my center point rectangle and move onto here. Now I'm going to try and draw this so the edge touches the edge here, the end of it, and it overlaps at the top. Okay, so we'll start roughly about there, so I know that it's coincident with my vertical line now. Drag it out. Now when you get to the end, stop there, and you can see that it's overlapped at the top, which is perfect for what I want there. Okay, so let that go. We're going to set the width of this to be 4 millimeters. Actually, no, 3. We'll do it 3 millimeters. Okay, 3. We don't need to worry about the height as long as it's overlapping at the top. Okay, that's fine. And then green tick. So if we go back to have a look at our edge base here, what I'm trying to recreate is that this has an indent that goes through the roof of the ramekin, whereas this sits exactly on the edge of this area here. So it doesn't overlap, it has a distinct edge to it, and that's what we're trying to recreate. Okay, so we now have our shape drawn there on the plane 1. I'm going to take my, let's open the sketch in. Let's take my extrusion tool. So this feature here, this line, wants to by default to come out of the shape. We don't want to do that, we want to go into the shape, so we're going to remove. Okay. By default it wants to go in 25 millimeters, so it's creating a slot into it. We don't want to be that deep, we only need it to be about 0.5, so 0.5. Okay, depth going in, press enter. And that's creating a nice indent into that. Okay, green tick. There we have an indent going into our shape there. Perfect. Okay. Right, next thing, we need to then pattern this going around the edge of our shape, because we need more than one to this. Okay. Before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about how the patterning works. The patterning will recreate every feature that we include into it. So, if I take my circular patterning tool, you'll probably see it under the linear pattern tool, and choose circular, like so. We need to tell it that we want to pattern a feature. And the feature that we're going to pattern is the extrusion that we've just done. So click on that, so that appears in the list here. And the axes that we're going to follow, axes is going to be the circular base of our shape or the circular top of our shape. Either one will do for it to follow. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottom one, click on that. Okay. Click into that box, and then that's it there. Right now, we've got a red line there. We're looking at the right box along here. Something's not happy here. Why is it not happy? Could be because that's cut there. Let's try it again. Oh, it's because we have the gap. No, it should still work. So that axis there. Ah, the extrusion is the wrong one. Sorry, that extrusion should be that extrusion. That's better. Now it's worked. I picked the wrong extrusion. So it's this extrusion here we need. Okay, that's good. Right, so now I've got my 4 shapes going around. Yeah. That's it. That's it there, that's worked. So I've got 4 instances that have occurred because that's listed here. We can change this. Let's try that on 10 and see what happens. Now we have 10 instances going around. Let's try this on 20. Now it's beginning to look more like a ramekin. Let's try this on 30, 40. Getting close. Let's try 45. 45. That's looking okay. We could have an even number. Let's make it 46. Yeah, that works for us. Okay? Right, and we have equal spacing occurring between each of them, and they've gone around the edge. Okay? So remember, this extrusion needs to be this extrusion, not this one, which is what I picked earlier, which is why it was turning red. Okay, let's green tick that. So the pattern has replicated everything that's been included in extrude 2. So it's repeated this shape all the way around. So if we want to make any changes to this, yeah, that should copy it through. So for example, if I open up the extrusion 2 and I make this slightly deeper, let's make this 0.75 millimeters instead. I'll green tick that. All of my shapes will then be 0.75 deep into that. That's quite deep, so I'll change that back to 0.5 for our purposes. 0.5 or 0.5, yeah. And that'll recreate it all the way through. Okay, but what if I want to actually fillet part of that feature? So this part here, say I want to round off these corners here. So let's click on that side there, that's nice. And we'll click on this side here. Yeah, so it's rounded off these edges here. Let's click on green tick. It has only occurred on the original image. It hasn't replicated around each of the other shapes there. That's because this is seen as a new feature, and in the circular pattern we've only got extrude 2 in it, okay? Plus the fact that our fillet is below in the tree of the circular pattern, okay? So let's help it. Let's move our fillet above it to there, okay? And again, it's only occurring on the first one, and you'll see the circular pattern is complaining because this feature now has a new addition to it, and that's not in the circular pattern. So let's add into this list here our fillet 1 there. Hey presto, is now worked on all of the other shapes as well. Let's green tick that. So let's now fillet the inside edge of our shape. So this line here, let's fillet that to round that off. So we'll grab the fillet tool, we'll pick the original edge there, and rotate this around, let's pick the original edge there, okay? And we'll green tick that. And again, this has now occurred below the circular pattern because it's a new feature we've added, so we'll put that above it. And then in the circular pattern tool, we'll add in this new fillet into it as well. And that's the beauty of a parametric tree. It's now happened to all of this, again, like corrugated iron, doesn't it? Okay. No, that works. Okay, good. So now we have our ramekin looking much more ramekin-like, more like a Reese's cup. I'm going to hide all of my work planes, like so, by pressing P. These lines here we can hide as well, so that was in sketch 2, so we can hide those. So they're not showing. And I think the last thing I'm going to do with this is to rotate it around, so I'm seeing the underside. I'm going to pick my shell tool, this one here, click on this surface there, okay, and that should start to shell out the shape. I think I'm going to make this 1.5 millimeters thick, so the wall of the shape is going to be 1.5 millimeters. Press enter, and I'll recreate that on the inside, so it's a hollow shape. Green tick, and I think at the top here as well, I think we can probably fillet the top of this shape. So this has got quite a harsh edge to it at the moment. So let's take our fillet tool again. We'll click on one of the elements here, and it should propagate that all the way around the whole of our top edge there. Okay. Click that, and there we have our shape ready. Okay. In the next one, I will have a look at how we can add a slot into the design as well. Looking forward to see what you create.